Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Bracket here on StriveSports.com. Back in front of the camera, not behind it. Thanks to Hoosier for actually being here today without state softball. It is the official release of the NSAA football playoff brackets. Last week, we were here to release the 8-man matchups in the East-West divisions, and we will talk about the new bracket for 8-man in a little bit. But our goal this morning to release the brackets for 6-man and then the 4 classes of 11-man. Mike Sautter, he's from Hurrdat Sports. Tony Chapman, he's had many titles, many publications over the years. We'll call you Flatwater Sports now, right?
Yeah, whatever you want to call me.
Whatever. Nobody.
I could think of some stuff.
Yeah,
there were some
whatever
other
you
things.
call me, I've been called worse.
Right.
I promise.
Exactly. Tony had a big day yesterday at State Cross Country. Lots of fun races and team titles that came down to the wire. We'll talk about that at a different time because we're talking football this morning. So, without further ado, let's get into a bracket. We're going to start in the smallest class and work our way up. We're going to start with the 6-man brackets because when we saw this just a little bit ago, we noticed the first thing, there are some drives happening. So let's show this
people
thing.
that complain about driving, you ain't got nothing.
If you think that sometimes in B, when going out to Scotts Bluff is tough, wait till you see some of these. The number one seed is SEM. Sumner Eddyville Miller will take on Paxton. Southwest will host Stewart, who had a fun, exciting game against Hampton, who is the 10 seed on the other side of the bracket. So Southwest hosting Stewart. Pawnee City hosting Sioux County. Right now, go to Google Maps and punch it in Harrisburg.
I did it.
To Pawnee City,
Yeah,
and the number is
it's 540 miles.
One way.
one
One way.
540.
I also typed in Memorial Stadium to Soldier Field in Chicago. It's 523.
So there's that. Bottom left of that bracket, Wilcox-Hildreth hosting Garden County. To go to the other side then, you've got Arthur County hosting Shelton. Hay Springs hosting Hampton, not 540 miles, but not short either. Potter Dix hosting Red Cloud, another good one. And then not quite Pawnee City and Sioux County, but Parkview Christian playing host to Cody Kilgore. It's just the thing. If you're in the Sandhills in western Nebraska, you just like a 2-hour drive is like going down the street to Walmart if you're out there. So for some, this is not so much a big deal. For others, it is a drive. But let's talk about the matchups. Tony, I want to start with you because SEM and Arthur County have been on the top of the polls pretty much all year. The points play out that way, and opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you got 4 undefeated still in 6-man in there, and you got 2 on each side. So intriguing matchups as you walk all the way through this with SEM, Pawnee City, the 4 over there, and then Arthur County and Potter Dix on the other side. The one that I really am intrigued here, though, is if it happens, Wilcox-Hildreth and Pawnee City round 2. Wilcox-Hildreth 7-1. Their lone loss is to SEM, who has basically beat everyone except Wilcox-Hildreth. They were down in the second half of that game, right. And so Coach Luke Glenn has got a team in Wilcox-Hildreth that can play with SEM. So if that second-round matchup comes to fruition, again, Pawnee City and Parkview Christian were our finalists last year. And so Parkview Christian's losses are, let's see, I know SEM is one of them, and I'm not even sure who the other one is. It's somebody in front of them. I'll have to look. Oh, it's Pawnee City. Yeah. Pawnee City and Sumner Eddyville Miller are their 2 losses. So they're opposite side of them, so you never know. Potter Dix was someone we kind of thought would walk through this thing last year, and Pawnee City went out there and made a name for themselves. Right. So this will be interesting. You got kind of Arthur County, Potter Dix is maybe Western kind of in 6-man, although it really, as you see with this thing, is all over the place. But yeah, exactly. So but some intriguing first rounders, Southwest and Stewart. I think Stewart's really, really good. Hampton and Hay Springs. Hay Springs started 0-3. They've won 5 straight, and I think I was looking last night, I think 3 or 4 of those 5 are playoff teams that are in the bracket here, so they've kind of bounced back. So interested in that one. Cody Kilgore and Parkview Christian, first team that throws a pass in that one might be the team that loses that one. That one will be a matinee here in Lincoln at Parkview Christian. So that'll be fun. This is a good bracket, a lot of balance, and should be interesting to see who plays in Kearney.
Matchup there in the 6 of 11, 2 teams with one of the nicest looking settings for their games.
Yes.
Parkview Christian in the park there down the hill by the school with the trees and the creek in the background. And Cody Kilgore has my favorite setting anywhere in the state.
With
nothing opposite. Actually, you're facing south.
Okay,
so the
All
rest
right.
of the state, if you're on the home side there at Cody Kilgore. Mike, what stands out to you in this 6-man bracket?
Well, the drives. Like, I don't know. What do you do? Do you stop like 3 times? Because you're going to need gas a couple times with the bus.
Well, the question is, will the bus make it in one
That's
one
what I
gas?
mean.
You're probably stopping at least twice. The question, I think, is do you have like a walkthrough? If you're Sioux County, do you have like you're leaving at probably
There's no way Sioux County's not leaving on Thursday.
Yeah, there's no way.
That's true.
That is a 2-day
Kearney or something.
That is a 2-day. It's a Kearney somewhere stop, and you probably even are like practicing at like late morning Thursday and then leaving Kearney, Grand Island somewhere, waking up, and then you're probably playing that game with Pawnee City at 2 or 3, and then you might even
you might have a walkthrough in the morning.
Are you driving all the way home after that thing? Even I don't know. This is intriguing. I absolutely love it because this is what it's all about.
Right.
I mean, think
about the memories though, like of
those kids
even if
from
win or loss, right?
Those kids from Sioux County, from Hampton, from you name it, Cody Kilgore.
Yeah.
They're gonna remember that. They're gonna remember this trip. Yeah, the rest of their life. It's gonna be awesome.
Absolutely. While we're here and we've got D6, why don't we jump up into 11-man? And before we take a break, let's jump up into C2 because there are some fun ones here. We went into we got some tiebreakers, I think, that had to get sorted out just a little bit this morning. But the 2 teams at the top of the bracket have been there point-wise, ranking-wise pretty much all year. You do not have that one in front of you, so I'll let you see it. Norfolk Catholic is the 1 seed. They'll host Aquinas. Kearney Catholic hosting Battle Creek. That was one that was very close in the points, and some games yesterday affected points this morning. Fillmore
Games
Central
last week affected points on like Tuesday.
Right.
A little bit. Yeah.
Fillmore Central hosting Wilbur Claytonia in an old SNC battle.
Love it.
That's a fun one there. Malcolm is the 5 seed. They will play host to Chase County. Speaking of drives, that's not close. Oakland Craig taking on Amherst. Oakland Craig's been at the top of the points throughout the year as well. St. Cecilia hosting Utan. Ord has had a nice year. They will host Cedar Catholic. Nobody ever wants to play Cedar Catholic in the playoffs. Mitchell gets Bishop Neumann at Mitchell. So there's a big drive there for Bishop Neumann coming from Wahoo. Mike, quick thoughts on the C2 bracket as it shakes out.
One thing is you look, Norfolk Catholic and Oakland Craig had a really good game at the beginning of the year. According to seeding and wildcard points, they match up. If they match up again, could be a really good game again. You have a lot of size up front on both of those teams. That one's pretty interesting. Battle Creek at the 9 is a little surprising to me. They're really good.
The strength of schedule just
they're really good.
They're really good.
Yeah,
I mean that's just. That quarterfinal, most people will tell you, is maybe the state championship game. I don't want to put anybody else down, but
I saw it the first time, right? The first time I played, it was really close in that rain delay thing.
How did you get home there, Mike?
I don't remember. It was like 2. Ord is coming on, right? Ord's played a really tough schedule.
Losses are Norfolk Catholic and Battle Creek.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the year, so feel like you like them. And then you have Newman sitting there at 11, super dangerous team.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened, the reason why I think people that follow C2 know this by now, but they had to forfeit their week 8 game, David City game, where they won by a lot. And ineligible players, they still got into the playoffs, but so they probably moved, that probably knocked them down a little bit. But hey, Mitchell, you get the home game this time, right? Finally, right? I've seen Mitchell play at Wahoo and different places in the first round, so they get that home game. But Newman, Ord, interesting. UTAN, St. Cecilia is, a very intriguing matchup. It's a lot of close, probably, games here, I think, in the first round. The 7-10 could be pretty close. Cedar and Ord is one that I look at, and it's kind of like, okay. And then Fillmore Central, great year. Obviously, strength of schedule. It wasn't just like, undefeated because they played nobody. They played some good teams, clearly.
Beat St. Cecilia.
Right. So
beat the team they're playing 35-13 week 4.
Right. Yep. There's some rematches in here. Kearney Catholic is a young team, was super young last year. Like, maybe not this year is the year to make a real strong, long run in the playoffs, but they're coming, and they just happen to have an old team with Trent Euler. That's really.
I was gonna say that's to be the team trying to make a little name for yourselves and make a little push. That is a really tough top of the bracket to try to make that push. But we'll see what's going on. Fillmore Central, a 4 seed. I don't think they've been that high of a seed in the playoffs since the Brower years in 03. And Gabe Eberhardt is also an alum. How many alums do we have coaching their teams here in C2? Any others? I know
Joe Anderson.
There you go, Joe.
Craig.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a couple there, and
I know Oakland Craig. They don't have a ton of numbers, like 36 or something is all. They're tough. Just a little bit of film and stuff I'm watching. That's just what you get with them. JT
Brand's really good.
Yeah, committed to South Dakota. Mm-hmm. He's really good. They have it's not a secret anymore, but they have like a 250-pound fullback.
The fridge.
Yeah. Just from what I've seen of that, it looks tough to handle. So, it'll be fun. Malcolm obviously had a strong year last year. See if they can kind of make a run at it.
Should be fun.
Chase County Malcolm played Junior Legion baseball in Chase Imperial.
They did, yep.
So Malcolm gets to return the favor there.
There you go. So that's the D6 and C2 brackets. Let's take a real quick break. We'll come back and we will reveal C1, B, and A in our next break. So you're watching Behind the Bracket on StriveSports.com.
Root for your home team and be there for all of the excitement. NSAAhome.org has all your high school sports championship ticket information.
Behind the Bracket with Eric, Mike, and Tony. We're moving into C1. But right before we get to C1, hold on. Recap of the one note that we failed to mention in C2. As of this fall, this is an important one. As of this fall, the higher seed will host all playoff games in C2. That's new this year. And again, it's the same thing for C1, B, and A. So all of the 11-man classes now, the higher seed will host throughout the playoff game. So you look at the 1 and the 2 seeds hosting throughout. 3 and 4 will host at least 1 or 2 within there as well. So that was an important note. We wanted to make that. Now we can move into and reveal the C1 bracket. And the 2 teams at the top, the 1 and the 2, Wahoo and Boone Central, collision course maybe throughout the year. But they've got a lot of good teams underneath them on both sides of the bracket. Wahoo will start with SCOTUS Central Catholic in the 116 game.
It's a rematch.
Yep. Broken Bow will take on DC West. DC West gave Boone Central all they wanted here.
DC West at a 9 is dangerous. And if they
losses are to Boone and Wahoo, right?
Yeah,
right.
if they were to play Wahoo, that would be another rematch of like just a couple weeks ago too.
Sydney is the 4 seed. They will host Gothenburg. Pierce will host Roncalli Catholic. Then you go to the other side, Boone Central hosting Lakeview. That's another rematch, right?
Pierce Roncalli is a rematch for sure too. Yeah.
Auburn hosting Ogallala. We talked about some of the travels. That's not a short one.
Trip,
in C1. Ashland Greenwood, speaking of travel, hosting Shadron. And then a rematch from a couple weeks ago, Adams Central hosting Aurora in the 6 versus 11.
Which game went down to the wire.
Break that one down.
That was,
Eric.
yeah,
you were there.
that was, I tell you what, when Aurora can get tempo, they can move on a lot of teams. I saw them motor down the field a couple different drives against Boone Central. Maybe got a little cute down inside the red zone, came away with no points, and then Boone was able to kind of just do their thing, right? Adams.
We're probably no one from Aurora wants us to go,
right?
Because Mike saw him lose to Boone, you saw him lose to Adams Central, and I saw him lose to Ashland Greenwood. So maybe we'll stay away from that one for the Huskies.
I'm not going to that one. That's for sure. That's for sure. So C1, some intriguing matchups. Is there anybody on here that jumps out as a big dark horse? Mike, you mentioned DC West as a dangerous team. Anybody else here that looks dangerous?
If they can stop the run at all. Brady McGill's really good, and or catching passes. They got good receivers and stuff up front. They got to stop the run. Pierce ran all over them like the first time they played. I would expect that game plan to be the same. Pierce is not quite as good as last year, but they're still dangerous enough to make a move here, I think, in this bracket. At least, get to a semi probably. Wahoo Boone is probably the game like everyone is wanting to see. But don't forget about Ashland.
Yeah,
right.
Like they have the best. It's either McGill or Dane Jacobson quarterback in C1. It's not. Yeah, don't forget about them. Like Drake Zimmerman's tough.
Yeah,
they're
I loved him against Aurora, man.
They're tough up front. And Ogallala's made a run here.
Yeah, they're playing really well.
Like really well down the stretch. Beat Sydney.
And I'm actually intrigued by that Gothenburg-Sydney game. There's the huddle trade is going to, like, they didn't play each other, but they played like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't play each other, but they played everybody else. So if you kind of look at kind of how they played against all those other teams out there, I think that could be a really good round one game, that 13-4 game, Gothenburg and Sydney.
Boone, I mean, Parker Boer's been just tearing
really
up
good
the year, man.
Yep.
Like, he's been so good for them. And Brant Bennis is good. Like, they've been building for this moment. They played some young guys a couple of years ago, and now those guys are old, and they've been building for this. They have bigger, hopes than, just to be good, right? Like
lots of seniors that have played a lot of years, and as we think back to the last 5-6 years, and most likely historically, C1 and C2, when you get that group. That is, they've been together forever.
Right.
They kind of took maybe a lump or two as a freshman or sophomore, and they've been through the ringer. That's kind of one I've got a little asterisk next to.
If you look, the scariest like double-digit seed, if you will, is Aurora.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Like they're just so well coached, and Booker Shireman's coming, right? He'll be there. Like you can talk about him now negatively all you want, but just wait. Like it's coming.
If we looked and semifinal Friday came and it was Wahoo Pierce and it was Boone Ashland, I mean that's real. That is.
Can we stagger the starts and hit both?
I mean, that is awesome football. And I don't, you're not trying to take anything away from anybody else on this bracket, but I mean, if that was what it kind of led up to. Just really good. And, Darren Sucksdorf, I mean, who wants that job?
Yeah.
Right? What he's done at Pierce this year, I think.
Keenan Valverde is
fantastic.
Really good.
Yes.
Like, and talk about backs, and I guess I've had numerous conversations about running backs and who's the best and all this stuff. And Like, he gets so lost in the shuffle of
Yeah.
the conversation.
Yeah.
But he was so good the night I saw them beat Roncalli. He was awesome.
Yeah.
So got to. That's the key. I mean, you got to try and slow down the run for them, and
Yep.
we'll see if Roncalli can do it up there. They played up there last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in the regular season, so they're familiar, right? It's a familiar trip for Roncalli, but. I don't want to discredit Wahoo. We haven't even talked about him.
Right. Oh, is there the 1 seed? Yeah.
They're good and young and tough, and they are multiple with their formations and sets.
Another
and
good running
quarterback.
back.
Yeah, quarterback can run though too
Yep.
with his legs. Like they are extremely well coached, super disciplined. I think. I watched them play SCOTUS 3 weeks ago. And they just handled him. Like, it wasn't even.
Yeah.
It wasn't
It's
even
always
close.
interesting to look at who'd you play. So, I mean, they beat 5 playoff teams, if I'm doing it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They beat 6 playoff teams, you guys. In their 9 games, they played 6 playoff teams. And you have a 7th win against Nebraska City, who would have been in the playoffs were they not ineligible. So the schedule that they've played is, really, really good. They've been battle tested. So, this is good stuff here. And Boone Central's played just about as good a schedule too.
Right.
I mean, they all 3 of those teams, Boone Central, non-district, they play 4 playoff teams, and Wahoo basically did the same. So, look at Boone and Broken Bow, Aurora, Lakeview, DC West to start. So just, really good schedules. They're battle tested. They're not going to be afraid of anyone.
Noah Bodorski's good back.
Yeah.
Like, really good running back. And they got more. I mean, they got more than him. Barrett LaValle's a good player. Braylon Iverson's a good player. They got a bunch of athletes. Like, they're Wahoo and Boone, if that ends up being the final, would be something. Again, like Ashland.
I know.
I am not. Ashland, Aurora's an 11. Like,
yeah.
You don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want that.
This bracket's pretty good. It's been good all year, right? And then it's especially top, at the top heavy. And then, Aurora loses those 3 games, and people think Aurora is, and people think, they're not as good. I don't know, man. Like, I ain't messing with that.
Yep.
Like, I don't want that game.
Well, let's break it down some more in a little bit. But first, let's reveal. Let's move into Class B because we've got a potential collision course here again. In the 1 seed in B is Bennington, and they've been there for a couple of years now, right?
35 games in a row.
Yeah, they've been there. So they will get Crete in the first round. The 8-9 game, Northwest hosting Norris. Northwest had a tussle with York last night. York ends up the 4 seed with their late game
York
heroics.
tussles with everybody.
York tussles with everybody. It's
everyone.
And I had flipped on the Northwest Strive game, and I'm like, this one's going to be interesting. It was 14-7, and York had the ball, and I watched York kick a field goal. I flip it away to go watch Syracuse, Lincoln Christian. Lincoln Christian scored with 5 seconds left to win it, 48-42. I come back, and I'm watching the drive by Northwest that ends in a blocked field goal at the buzzer. So York's the 4 seed. They will get Scotts Bluff. Haven't they had some good playoff games in the last few years? A battle there at Elkhorn High as North will play host, quote-unquote, to Elkhorn in the 5-12 game. The opposite side of the bracket, Waverly is the 2 seed. They will host Ralston. Seward will host Hastings. Scott Catholic hosting Gross Catholic.
Rematch of
And
Thursday night.
Right.
That's back-to-back weeks.
Back-to-back. And Plattsmouth hosting Blair in the 6 versus 11. Everybody, Mike, is still chasing Bennington because you got to score on Bennington to try to beat them, and that has proven infinitely difficult.
Kyler Lordson's a stud. He's a stud, and you got to kind of try and run away from him, but they disguise it so well. Such a great defense. I mean, Jack Jansen's really good defensive end for them. Gunnar Lim's going to North Dakota, UND, North Dakota, to play safety or football. He plays safety now, and he's athletic. Their defense has led them this year, which feels like it's kind of the opposite of what it's been the last couple of years. But Sandman at quarterback can run a little bit and use his legs to get out. Yeah, Waverly's the one here that if you look at it, it's like, ooh, man, like they're really good athletes, multiple a little bit, clearly handled basically everybody. But Scott's the team, I think, that you look at a 3 that probably won't get talked about enough because they're the 3 seed, before we get into this. And they, outside of, last second, what could have been a touchdown or wasn't a touchdown against Bennington in the first week of the season, they'd be undefeated.
Right.
So I think Scott's good. I think they're really good. Maxwell Chandler at middle linebacker and fullback is running back, whatever he does, is way good. Like he'll hit you. And then Plattsmouth is a scary one. Plattsmouth Blair is like couldn't be more opposite because it's not really true, but Blair likes to throw it around a little bit. Plattsmouth doesn't care about that very much. Nope. They'd want to hit you in the mouth, and they are huge up front. I'm talking like 6'6", 260, 6'4", 250, whatever. Like, they are huge up front. And Caleb Adkins, number 44 for Plattsmouth, he's going to come violently to tackle you and run you over when he has the ball. So, and they do some neat stuff with their big linemen and move them around a little bit. So,
30-27 week 1 for Plattsmouth.
Yeah.
So you kind of get to see which team grew and how that thing's gonna really
Elkhorn
play
North
out.
at a 5 though. Like, if you're looking at this, I'm jumping ahead of you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Elkhorn North at a 5 is a little scary. It was only 14-0. I mean, they couldn't. Well, it was like a 45-mile-an-hour wind when they played Bennington, but it was only 14.
Right.
Like, if they threw a pick in the red zone. Like, I mean, if the weather cooperates, it might be all right.
I mean, another team who can't hate this draw is Scotts Bluff.
No.
14-10 out at Scotts Bluff. York beats them. They turned it over. I think Chris Cottrell told me 3 times in the red zone in that game, which is kind of what York does to you anyway, right? So that's 2 pretty even teams, just having seen both of them play a couple times this year on paper. I think Nate Kelly's as big of a gamer as there is, and Sebastian Boyle went over 5,000 yards for his career last night. 2 of my favorite dudes, Sebastian Boyle and Seth Erickson in that one. Those are 2, they're just kind of like football players, like they're just like, you threw them on like a game from like 1984, like they can play like in that game, and so
they need bigger shoulder pads.
Yeah, like they need a neck roll, all that kind of stuff. And so that game I think is really going to be interesting. I'll be curious to see what kick is there. There's some 8-man games right around York on Friday night East, so we might have to see if we can parlay some of those together and see how that goes. So and Norris and Northwest, the score comparisons there are really interesting. I think that'll be a good football game. Obviously, everybody needs to know that my kids go to school at Northwest, and Kevin Stein's a good friend. I think they've overachieved at 5-4, quite frankly, already.
Yeah.
If you walk on their sideline, it looks like a hospital. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
everybody's
on 3 torn ACLs. I mean, they're basically playing
And linemen, too.
They're basically playing their backup line from what they started the season at. And Chase Wiegert is fast, and he's a big play kid, and I think have done a nice job running the football with Lincoln Flegel and with their quarterback Cam Jensen, maybe a little bit better than I think even maybe they thought they would have. And they're playing really pretty good defense. I know they're disappointed with how that York game finished last night. They up 14-10 with 6.5 minutes left. They got 1 first down. If they really get one more first down, they're probably gonna end that game. So, but they've also had some go their way too. They won 3 straight 1-point games, and so I think that'd be really interesting.
1 point.
1 point. Yeah.
Here's one note on Bennington. The Class B record for undefeated seasons in a row is only 2. This would be 3 if they can finish the job here.
Wow, you went there, huh?
I said if they can. I didn't say they could. I just said if they can. The if part.
Mike doesn't broadcast
if the football gods are watching, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be prophetic if Scott got another chance at him based on how that game went? You really think that would? That'd be a must-see game.
And that 11-man consecutive winning streak is 48.
Right.
So. That's a whole nother.
We're still,
year.
we got to.
That's a whole nother year. That was Cambridge, and I might have been on the team that beat them that year. But
Class A. All the Class A people.
They're like,
Class
shut
A's,
up.
Everybody's yelling at Mike right now.
Coach
fine.
Woodard is bitter that we're still yapping
Is he
about
really?
non-Class A. I don't know.
All right. Well, Hoosh, show us A then. Let the people give them what they want. It's West Side and Prep in round 1 as the 1-16. Papio hosting Bell West in the 8-9. Kearney Gish in the 4-13.
Love it.
Yes, there were chuckles in the office as they were actually laying this out. Millard West hosting Millard North. Millard South taking on North Star. North Star gets in with a win last
Great
night.
win against Columbus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gretna will host Omaha North. Who wants to play a Larry Martin team in the playoffs?
After coming off a loss.
Yeah, nobody ever. Elkhorn South will take on Papio South, and Lincoln Southeast will play Lincoln East. Seacrest Field gets playoff action. Mike takes a deep breath.
Yeah. So first of all, there's gonna be a Buell Stadium doubleheader, right?
Fun.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Millard South will host and Millard West.
Millard West will host. So there'll be a 4 and 7:30 or whatever.
Will the Millard game get the prime time? Or will Millard South have the choice since they're the
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's how that'll work. So that'll be a doubleheader. So that'll be fun. Right away, you get the biggest rivalry in the state with Prep and West Side, and they played, and it didn't go well for Prep the first time. But Prep has gotten better. I said this like at the beginning of the year. Prep's just going to continue to get better as the year goes on. They replaced basically their whole line and a bunch of stuff. They're really senior-laden team. But you get a juggernaut at first round. Bellevue West is healthy. Like, Davon Hall came back on Thursday. Isaiah McMorris is back.
I love that 8-9 game.
Looks like they're running the ball a little better. Can they stop the run at all? Because they're going to play a Papio team with Peyton Prestito that can run the ball. Like, they beat Prep. He had 37 carries for 322 yards.
And
like,
he played every snap on defense.
Yes,
too, where he's like
middle
not a
linebacker.
Class A player.
Yeah. So, like,
Some six-man guys going, man, that's a night.
Yeah.
right.
Eric Ingwerson, all that. Like, Papio's good. And that game is super interesting. Like, we'll see how the times work out.
Yeah.
But that one's probably – I always kind of go that 8-9 just because
Right.
it's supposed to be more competitive. But Elkhorn South, Papio – Elkhorn South's defense, so good. They were so good last night against Omaha North. I mean, it was 10-0, shut them out.
Yep.
So Gretna, Omaha North could be like – it could be 10-7. Like, it just really could. Isaiah Weber for Gretna is going to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Jansen is a young lineman for Gretna, young junior. He's going to go against, probably Tyson Terry and Smarts Henderson, like big guys up front. North's defense is legit too. So that one, I figure.
Gretna with a really good win against Lincoln East last
Yeah,
night. Like,
kind of.
maybe a little bit easier than we thought it might be.
Kind of
Yeah.
rolled them a little bit. The East-Southeast game is a rematch. That was a double overtime game where East beat them.
Came back from way down, too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And Millard West, Millard North, obviously, played.
That'll be nice and kind, and everybody will be,
The crazies won't be.
It'll
out.
be a little
They'll be
kinder
subdued.
than it'll be a little kinder than if it was Millard South, Millard West. I'll tell you that. But like can this group of young, when I say young, juniors at Millard North, that core, can they like? I think all year have been waiting for a from them, right? And they kind of just sneak in because they had a, I guess I would consider they had a win, but it wasn't like that score's interesting, right? I wasn't there. I didn't watch it. But, against Southwest on Thursday night, that figured they probably would handle them. So you get that rivalry, and then you get the Grand Island Kearney rivalry game right away. That'll be, if the first game had a lot of people, this one is going to have way more.
A 10-7 game.
Yeah.
I think Grand Island felt like, man, we should have won that football game. Really, really interesting.
Sawyer
matchup
is a really good player for Kearney
very
too.
Good. Very good
just
player.
a junior. So, it's intriguing. I mean, as you map it out, if seeds hold, all those things, those quarterfinals could be really good. All year it's been West Side and Millard South, and you don't really see a reason why it shouldn't be, right, going forward.
Elkhorn South would have to play really well. Like if
Elkhorn
they
South's
got
defense,
Millard South,
the forward pass was a problem last night for both Omaha North and Elkhorn South.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of that happening. There was attempts at it, but it wasn't.
They're playing like the old. There's a penalty if it was incomplete rules, kind of.
Man, it was struggling. Elkhorn South's defensive line is way good.
Yeah.
Henry Prohaska, Ashton Murphy, like leading the way a little bit there. If it's Millard South, and if the seeds hold here, and Elkhorn South playing in a semi, again, the score could be really low because you're looking at two really good defensive lines.
Right.
And all year the talk has been West Side, and deservedly so. Like, honestly, if they can run the table here and finish the job and finish it out, they're probably going to go down as one of the best teams ever.
Yeah,
they're in the conversation if they do it, because their margin of victory is going to be so high.
Yeah.
You look at the talent on the field that they have with the Rezacks, and you just go down like Caleb Binning, both Rezacks. We're talking like
Christian Jones,
like power conference Division I. Keenan Cotton is a junior.
Yep.
And they're very well coached. Their culture is so strong. Like, they all. RJ Eckhart's a defensive lineman that gets no love, and he's really good. Yep. He's at least a D2 player in my opinion. Jonquil Osler is another guy, defensive lineman, really good. Bo Ryan in the middle linebacker is really good player. Their corners are long and tough. I don't know. And I know Millard South is they feel like the game that they played with Westside was a little closer than the final score.
And it was.
But if you're going to talk about it, you got to be about it too.
Yeah. And
you lost 37-14 or 31-14, whatever the score was. It just, I don't mind the talk part, but there's just a lot of that going on, and I think it's more parents, right? But that Millard South West Side, that's the game. Everyone's looked at that and everything, and I feel like in Elkhorn South feels like they maybe been slighted a little bit because they're not in that conversation. Last night they proved that if it's cold or wet,
November.
All that, they can handle it.
Yeah.
And they do have some. They're not fake tough guys up front and all that too either. So I don't know. This is pretty intriguing, and Millard West is out there at the 5. They're pretty good too.
And they lose to Millard South by 1 point. First
and
game.
Bellevue West has the most. When you talk about offensive talent.
Yeah.
Three.
There's
three
a
kids
lot
going
of
to
fun. There's a lot of different storylines. It doesn't. Nobody's storyline necessarily matches up really well, or strength versus strength.
Yeah.
everybody's
really
got a
different.
strength that kind of nobody else, to a certain extent, does.
Like, everybody knows that most of my football does not involve this class.
Right.
But I went and watched West Side play Kearney, and I've watched Kearney over the years. Brandon Cool is like one of my favorite dudes ever. And I went out there, and Mike, it was one of the most impressive halves of football. I mean, I told you, I've been covering football since 1998, and I've never seen anything like it. It was 506 yards on 35 plays, and it was 56-0 at halftime. They faced 2 third downs against the 4 seed.
Yeah.
In the first half, they faced 2 first downs against the 4 seed, and the second half literally took 26 minutes because there was a 1-minute break between the quarters, and they just get out of there. It was an impressive an operation as I have ever seen, and I don't know. That's all
They
I
would
would
be
say
their
about
third
that.
state title game if they make it. If they can make it.
Yeah, I just how they went about their business. You just watch them warm up, and it was like,
Very
you almost could see. You were talking to Mike Lucas and a couple of their coaches. Like, it was like North Platte is not going to happen to us again,
Right. Yeah.
and we're going to end this thing quick, and they ended that thing quick, and it was impressive.
One note about Miller South is Nolan Feller came back last night, and he's their lead running back, and he had an injury that he missed a handful of weeks. They use him a bunch of different ways. I think that's maybe a little bit of an X factor for them. I know that Coach Wisdom's definitely happy to have him back. Right. So that changes the game a little bit. Yep. Let's just get to Friday, I guess.
Can we
just get to Friday?
Can we go fast? Yes. Well, we're going to get to Friday in about 7 days now, right? So, so all of the brackets are out. So what we're going to do next, take another quick break, and we're going to recap because we got to talk 8-man. D1 and D2 have new brackets that were from the games that got completed on Thursday night.
Sad those games are on Friday.
And now they get to play on Friday like everybody else. It's a good thing. It's a bad thing. It's
not good.
It's a thing, is what it is. So we're going to talk D1, D2 coming up next on Behind the Bracket.
It's thanks to you that we're where we are today. We're proud to watch these communities grow because they're our communities too. Our neighbors, our friends, it's where we live. These are all our hometowns. And no matter what, the people who will continue to serve your needs with the hometown support you know and trust are just down the street. Cornerstone Bank, growing together.
Tom Dinsdale Automotive is celebrating our 20th anniversary. 20 years of building lifelong relationships. 20 years of providing superior customer experiences. 20 years of supporting the community. For 20 years, we've been building trust and loyalty by treating every customer like family on every visit. We're proud to serve Grand Island and the surrounding areas. Thank you for 20 great years, and we look forward to many more. Help us celebrate 20 years of service. Stop in today.
Limitless. When you believe there's no limit to what you can achieve. You come to Midland for an education, but you will leave with so much more. We're a small campus with big opportunities, and whatever you need, we'll help you succeed. At Midland, it's your future, your way, with our support every day. Midland University. It's bold, it's an experience, it's family, it's limitless.
Welcome back to Behind the Bracket here on StriveSports.com. Eric Allgood, Mike Sautter, and Tony Chapman revealing the NSAA state football playoff brackets. They're all out. Everything's out there. It's a matter of finding some times for some. The locations will be set, obviously, with the higher seed hosting in the 11-man brackets. The 6-man brackets, the first round is hosted by the higher seed. And a reminder that 6-man and 8-man, we're going to put it in air quotes, do the old way of if you get an upset in there, you could see a higher seed travel to a lower seed. The way it works
We
out.
talked about this last week. Here's your reward.
Here's your reward. But it does work out that, let's say you get that, usually the game that happens is the 8-9 game. The 1 seed then would travel to a 9 if you get that upset. it does not quite guarantee that the 1 seed will host that semifinal. If that happens, that's the most likely one to happen. Doesn't always, but
It's happened before.
It's happened before. So D1, as it let's reveal that bracket, and not all of the times are in. So I didn't put all of the time information. The NSAA site has most of the times put in. Stanton is the 1 seed. Yeah, we're missing one right now. Stanton and North Platte St. Pat's, opposite sides of the reseeded bracket in D1. Summerlin will go to Stanton. Clarkson Lee will go to North Platte St. Pat's. Clarkson Lee beat JCC in a really close game, a first home playoff game for JCC in Johnson County Central school history. They were Tecumseh with Matt Davison the last time they were playing a home playoff game on that field. The 8-9 game is Arapahoe and Ravenna. The 4 seed is Cross County taking on Perkins County. Sandy Creek has had a whale of a year. They will continue on in the playoffs, hosting Weeping Water, who has wrecked brackets the last couple of years. So,
thought for a second there
high
was gonna
alert
be a cross-county game in Weeping Water.
Right.
Full alert.
Right, full alert.
From Sandy
In
Creek.
March Madness, the 12 always beats a 5 somewhere. Big asterisk there in D1. On the bottom half of D1, Plainview hosting Elkhorn Valley. Crofton gets Bridgeport. That is not a short drive for the Bulldogs to go visit. But a very short drive is Exeter Milligan Friend hosting Shelby Rising City. We've got a lot of towns for one game. And then, like we said, North Platte St. Pat's hosting Clarkson Lee. I got to see, Mike and I actually toured half the state, it seemed like, there Thursday night.
No, it was just Highway 92.
It was just 92 and a little bit on 81. But Cross County taking on Perkins County. A lot of good-looking athletes for the Cougars, Mike.
Yeah. I just saw him for a little bit, but Tanner Hollinger catches a touchdown pass. It was started a little, whoa, what's happening? Is this happening again?
Right. Wisner came
Cross
out,
County,
out swinging.
Yeah, and then it kind of settled down. Isaac Dickey's tough, linebacker, fullback. I'd like to see him maybe use him a little more offensively, but Syme's a good player too. We'll see if they can kind of, make a run at it here.
It's also maybe my favorite offense in 8-man. It's the 8-man version of the single wing that they run. There's not a quarterback more often than not. They did run a little bit of I formation under center
a couple times,
and it ended up being a sweep with the quarterback lead blocking anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Quite honestly, when I watched them play Shelby Rising City, the I formation kind of changed the game for them. I talked to Matt Carroll, and like you mentioned, you want to see Dickey carry the ball more. They're better when he's not.
Yeah.
And which is, it's pretty rare you see that.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare you see that selfless, like, 8-man. Like,
Hercules.
yeah, like, and you think of walk-on at Nebraska, and it's like that Isaac Dickey is like the definition of walk-on at Nebraska. Like, he's going to be like on punt cover or something, something crazy. But like, they're so good when he's playing fullback. Like, they were running that single wing. He was back there, and they're just not as good blocking when he's carrying the football. Is how it looked to me. I was pretty amateur, but I'm telling you, this Shelby Rising City defense. I hope I got it to you that I really, and I wasn't expecting a shutout against Elmwood Murdoch, but I really like that defense. I thought Cross County against Shelby Rising City, because of the turnovers that Shelby Rising was. I'm telling you, Cross County should have scored 70 or 80 points, and they scored 48. And I mean, Shelby Rising City's defense is right there, and Brecken Schluter is a dude. That's going to be a really good football game. Five-town game, and I mean, I'm just here to tell you that one could be. I want to say an Old Crossroads Conference, but that's not the case anymore. But to me, it is, and it always will be.
It is in Milligan.
Yes, to me, it will be. It is in Milligan.
It is.
Good.
I did see that. Yeah.
Okay, that's like one of the best cool places to.
The Verb
watch
kids are
football.
like you mentioned them, Tony, last week.
Yes,
they're good.
So good.
I was really impressed. 32.
They tackle. They tackle well. Yeah, I was, super impressed with how Shelby Rising City fought and played, and nothing was going right, and they just wouldn't
QB
quit.
run game a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Lindsley's I think a nice
Lindsley,
quarterback. Yeah. Interesting. Sandy Creek. I just noticed. We have, I think 7 undefeated teams still.
Yeah.
One of them on the road. By the way, I think we need to talk about that Ravenna team because never ranked.
Like,
Nobody cares.
The last
finally,
week or two.
And then
started.
they'll lose to Riverside last week of the
Just
season.
roll.
Drub them.
Yeah.
Ooh, Neely Oakdale. That's a tough draw. Drub them.
Yeah.
And so this Arapahoe Ravenna game, it's going to be interesting. I really like that. Really like that matchup. And in Summerlin, probably the shocker of the. This is why I love, people get upset about that first round, qualifying round, whatever you're calling whatever it is when they.
That happened Thursday.
Yes, you can call it whatever you want. The playoffs, you get a T-shirt, whatever. But
T-shirt round.
You have to have it. If you're only going to have an 8-game schedule and 8-man, you have to do it this way. And in Summerland is the reason why. Clarkson Lee is the reason why they wouldn't have been 16-team qualifiers. You have a few of those in D2 as well. And Summerland beating Highline in overtime.
Right.
Really impressive win for them.
Summerlin's Stanton collision course, right? Outside of, you look at Cross County is like the dangerous.
Yeah, Cross County, Sandy Creek.
I feel like in 8-man you never get the 1-2 matchup. In the finals, it's always something else. So
yeah,
that could
Crofton's an interesting one too. And we talked about St. Pat's on the first show, and
they're good,
really, really good, well coached. But man, Clarkson Lee won it all last year.
Yeah.
Coach isn't too bad either. I mean, they're going to be. They're going to be. They're going to be ready to go. That'll be a super fun game to watch.
Let's go D2. Let's talk it. Hoosier. Let's show it. We do get Johnson Brock and Why Not on opposite sides of the bracket. Johnson Brock, the 1 seed, will take on Anselmo Myrna.
Watch out for Sloan Pelican lowering his shoulder.
If Sloan gets low, there's a group again.
Seriously.
We talked about it with C1 and C2. When you get that kind of core group that's been around together, Johnson Brock's got that as well. Sand Hills Thedford will host Lord Central Catholic. South Loop taking on Lawrence Nelson. Central Valley BDS. That's a rematch from the I think was it the quarterfinals last year.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. The 2 seed is Why Not. They get Mullen. Humphrey St. Francis will host Axtell. Dundee County Stratton hosting Twin Loop. And then when it got released yesterday, my eyes opened wide because Carter Nelson and Ainsworth get to host Howells Dodge. And whoa, buddy, that one might be appointment viewing. That might be worth the trip.
That's the game that when this first that was oh wow, okay. That one's something.
We're gonna find out a lot.
Yeah, a lot. This Howells Dodge team isn't quite. I don't think quite. What they normally are. Meaning they're just not smacking people and winning. Undefeated in that.
Yeah.
But Mike
They
Spears,
still smack people.
Yeah, but you know
not
what I'm
undefeated.
saying, right?
Yeah.
But Mike Spears is still the head coach.
Right.
And it's still Howells Dodge. And they're super tough. And this is something where, the Ainsworth naysayers find out now, right? You're going to find out right now, right away, right? So, their strength of schedule, who they played, type of thing. Well, they're going to play somebody this time.
If you're Ainsworth, you got to look at this next week as how fun of an opportunity
awesome.
to
host
just
a game
we're going to
and,
host it. With the
it's
team
not just
playing.
Carter Nelson there,
Right.
though. They got way more than him. I mean, he's statistically just killing it.
The defense they've played. I mean, I think that's probably last year they lose to I think Elm Creek in this round, and I think last year you looked and the score, they kind of had the same record, but the scores were closer. And this year it feels like they're just dominating teams a little bit more. But I don't think they've given up 20 points all season.
Right.
And, you know, it's like they're giving up 6 and 8 and 6 and
Jacob held as a junior. He has 15 sacks.
yeah, and he's, you know, legitimate
Right.
player. So this is going to be interesting. He's not going to get many sacks on Friday because there's not going to be many passes.
No, yeah. There won't be any.
And so
Many.
yeah. I mean, so
5.
I mean that really will be the key. Like if if Ainsworth can make Howells Dodge throw it 8 to 10 times, they're gonna love where they stand.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much how you know the game is going correctly against Howells Dodge. And you know, you look at 7-2, lost to Wynot early by like a touchdown, and then they were well ahead of St. Francis, I believe, in the fourth quarter until that thing got wonky.
Yeah.
And the lead changed hands like 4 times in the last 2 minutes. And
Ainsworth has 198 pass attempts on the year. That feels like a lot.
yeah, and they throw it with their quarterback
17
in with
people
Carter
have
Nelson.
thrown
And
it.
you know,
Yeah.
Eric and I probably had the most detailed text conversation about Carter Nelson, but
Right.
I didn't see any receiving stats from their playoff game, but he needed 69 yards to get 500 receiving yards, and he'd be 500, 500.
Yeah.
And we can't find any 8 or 11-man player that's
can't
ever done
imagine.
that.
Yeah.
We found 2 6-man players
Yep.
that have done it, and everybody knows who Luke Caston and Noah
Well, he has
Velocic are.
626
Receive-
receiving yards.
Oh, they've updated that then.
Okay.
So they must have thrown it a little bit
Yeah.
against Kennesaw. So there you go. I mean, it's
2 totally different styles. That's the game. I mean, like we've spent a lot of time on it, but that is the game. Like
The other-
that's in this round.
we've two.
St. Francis, scary, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
really
that's
good
what-
quarterback who's
yeah.
a sophomore, decent coach, right? I mean, he's been to a few
He's okay.
games. Yeah,
I think he's probably
yeah.
just
Them
okay.
and Wynot possibly in the
Rematch.
quarterfinals would be really good.
Rematch
you
from
look at
week 1, whatever that
2,
was.
I think.
And it was close.
Yep.
Up there.
Yep.
Right. And why not?
Yep.
Up there. They're
I
both up
I
there.
love the idea of maybe a South Loop Central Valley game in the
Central
quarterfinals.
Valley's probably that sneaky one that like when
South Loop's kind of been the coaches like South
Yeah, a
Loop,
lot.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Coaches poll. South Loop's been the one for like majority of the year, and they're the 4 seed here. So
Yeah, well coached. And Central Valley, I watched them play in the semifinals last year against Howells Dodge with not all their
Someone
team
told
back,
me
but most of
Thursday
them.
night, like, hey, Central Valley's probably
Yeah, they're
on. I'm
really
like,
good.
Yeah, I think they probably are.
Yeah, they're really good. Chip Bartles, I think, does a great job there. Really cool. In a few years, there's a Fultz on the team now for Central Valley, so that's kind of cool to be able to maybe follow that one for a while. But in Sandhills Thetford, their loss is South Loop. I think they're really good. I think Sandhills Thetford. I think they could cause Lord some problems in that game. That'll be an interesting one. But again, yeah, all eyes on that Ainsworth game. We didn't even really talk about
Speaking
Nutley
about
County's
travel,
travel.
the Lord Sandhills Thedford is not.
Yeah,
close.
That's not close.
too bad.
not too
I mean,
bad.
it's not Sioux County to
No,
to
not
Pawnee
Sioux
City.
to Pawnee City.
And I don't know if that game will be in Dunning or Thetford.
The only way Sioux County could go farther is if they went to Sacred Heart or Johnson Brock.
Yeah, they're not-
I mean,
yeah.
and that I
Right.
mean, it's close. It's pretty close.
That's so awesome.
And to,
Yeah.
to
I
still
love
play
it.
6-man, it's as far as they can go.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. It'll be fun.
I love it.
I do wish I do wish they played on Thursdays, because these kids, like at least the first round or second round or whatever, because selfishly, like I had
Yeah.
so much fun. I went to 3 games or
Yep.
2.5 games.
Yeah, ish. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to 2.5 games, and like the people are like, "Oh, thanks for being here."
Yeah.
Like from a media standpoint, from radio your local radio
Absolutely.
stations, and
Yeah.
kind of your Norfolks and Columbuses and North Platte papers and Kearney and all that. Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
They're gonna go to an 11-man game.
Well, you just nailed it, because I was talking to Dale Miller from the Norfolk
Yeah.
Daily News yesterday at State Cross Country.
Yeah, he's the sports editor there.
And we're like, oh man, that I want to
Got a lot going on there.
Can I go cover that Ainsworth Howells Dodge game? And he goes, I don't know if we're going to be able to get to it. You think of
probably
Battle
won't.
Creek, Norfolk
Yeah.
Catholic. I mean, they're going to have 11-man games in their area they're not going to be able. And that's 2 teams who are really basically in their coverage area,
are,
Howells Dodge
yeah.
and Ainsworth.
They are.
And so you don't. I've had the conversation's been had a lot with 8-man coaches. They want that week off. I get it. I would love. We were kind of talking in the break. If they just played this next round on Thursday, and then when they got to the quarterfinals, and we're down to 24 games, and then they could go back to Friday. I think they do their game a world of service, but that's something that they've got to decide. And so they want to play on Fridays now. That's their thing.
I think there's momentum to change it, though.
Yeah,
after experiencing it.
It'd be really like I love that opening round night Thursday, and then this night Thursday would be awesome, and then get back to the Fridays. I think it merits conversation to help grow their game. So
yeah, I know my wife is gonna be happy I'm not going anywhere Thursday. Actually, that's not true. Volleyball.
You'll probably go to volleyball.
Yeah,
that was going to be my other question, was because volleyball has changed in the last 4
that's another
years.
thing on the semifinals of volleyball.
Yeah,
you're going to get you would get next week. You'll get district volleyball.
That's on Saturday though.
Yeah,
but you get some sub-district
stuff?
No,
because all is Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah. Monday, Tuesday,
volleyball's
Saturday.
Monday, Tuesday, Saturday,
and Wednesday.
Okay.
Monday,
and a little bit of Wednesday with A and kind of all that. But all the district final volleyball is Saturday with subs or Monday.
Stuff though is another thing is like
the Fridays quarterfinals and
splitting student sections.
Yeah, quarterfinals and semifinal volleyball. But I don't know a way around.
There's no way. Yeah.
No, I don't know that. I actually like that they move volleyball up so that it's on quarterfinal night as opposed to semifinal night.
Right. It affects more. In theory, it affects more schools, and yet it doesn't feel as detrimental.
Yes,
is that the way to
totally
say it?
agree with you. Yep.
Yeah, I agree, because we've been a part of coverage for
right.
for semifinal football and semifinal volleyball on the same night, and.
Yep.
And, you've got 14 crews going to a football game, and you've got 2 crews doing volleyball. And, that's why I'm gray. That's why Mike has no hair, and I'm
class,
gray.
The volleyball semifinal, this is a football bracket, but that Friday night of the semis is pretty electric because they're playing both both games at the same time. And, it's loud. It can get pretty intense. And just I wish more people would be able to go.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So but I don't know a way around it. I don't have a solution for that.
Of all the things COVID messed up, the shift that volleyball had to do to get everything into PBA,
that was great.
And then the championships in
the day off for basketball was another
amazing.
Thing that was really good. The days off in between.
It's so awesome. Jennifer Schwartz was in charge of volleyball.
Right.
Now it's Jeff Stouse's, and maybe we should do another show next week.
We should. It's so amazing the things we talk about that. Oh man, this would make this event better or whatever. I think states around us look to us.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I think
softball,
I look at Kansas's postseason stuff, and I about just you know it firsthand. I pull my hair out. I was looking their cross country meet is at 2 different places, and they do state basketball
is that 6
different places,
yeah,
and I'm
crazy.
State football championship games are at 6 locations, and they all happen at the same time.
At the same time, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So anyway. I think we're lucky, and I think it's great that we have people in our state who are always trying to look at ways to make things better, because I think we have in the last 5 to 6 years, which has been awesome as well.
But we'll save some of the other talk for another time. This has been a fun show. Good luck to all of the teams. Safe travels, because some of you are doing just that. We look forward to getting more times figured out between the schools, and look forward to all of the different types of coverage that not just guys like Mike and Tony and myself, but local newspapers and local radios, that everybody can get out. And you never know when that one magic play will happen, how many cell phones are out at the time. So thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for Hooge producing this morning, and we'll see you next week at a game somewhere. Thanks for watching Behind the Bracket on StriveSports.com.